Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
Daily Compliance News for May 26, 2021, the Shaken Not Stirred edition. And we begin with that as our lead story as Amazon purchases the entire MGM category in an $8.45 billion deal. The title of today's post comes, of course, because the James Bond franchise is owned by MGM, at least 50% ownership. The balance is held by Barbara Broccoli and her brother Michael Wilson, who are the son and daughter of the original producer of the James Bond franchise, Cubby Broccoli. Nevertheless, it was a stunning payment by Amazon. They get some 25,000 films in MGM's back category, and it allows Amazon to, as one commentator said, get 50 years worth of content for Amazon Prime. So kudos to Amazon for the purchase of MGM. Many think they overpaid, but when you get James Bond plus 25,000 films, perhaps not. Next up, a couple of interesting energy-related stories. First, from my good friend Chris Matthews, who writes for the Wall Street Journal, as 2 activists, climate change activists, won board seats from Exxon in a stunning defeat for Exxon management. This brings really a new set of ideas and new blood to the Exxon board. It certainly portends a big change for big energy and for Exxon, whose stock has literally tanked over the past 10 years, losing over half of its value, I believe. They need to understand climate change is here, climate change is real, but more importantly, investors want companies, even energy companies, to focus on climate change and a broader set of ESG goals. So Exxon learned a pretty humiliating public lesson from that. But also, equally interesting, a Netherlands court ordered Shell to cut emissions by 45% by 2030. It's the first time a company has been legally obligated to align its policies with the Paris Climate Accords. An environmental group brought the case in 2019. Though the decision only applies in the Netherlands, it could have wider effects elsewhere. I doubt those effects would immediately come to the United States. Nevertheless, you must look at this as a new front in the war on those who do not want to engage in climate change, the climate change deniers and naysayers. And our last story, we continue to follow the ENRC lawsuit in court in London against its former counsel, Neil Gerard, and the Serious Fraud Office for allegedly colluding to obtain confidential and attorney-client privilege documents. The Serious Fraud Office made its opening statement yesterday and completely eviscerated ENR and basically said, you may have changed your mind about whether you wanted to provide us with documents, but it's a little bit too late to sue us.
The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.